English grammar is all about parts of speech, at least that's how it seems on the outside, right? But you see, parts of speech are further classified into many different categories. They might seem a lot, but they're actually quite interesting to learn, and once you get the hang of them, all becomes easy. As you might already know, one of the first things any learner learns while learning English is nouns, more specifically, pronouns. But in order for nouns or pronouns to be understood better, we are required to understand the placements as well, because that's what decides a lot of other factors. Today we'll be covering just about that, subject and object in English grammar. Let's first talk about nouns. Nouns can be anything, something that you can see and something that may not be perceptible. For example, a car is an object you can touch and feel, but sadness isn't tangible because it's simply what we call a feeling. Both of these, however, are perfectly nouns, we just categorize them differently. We have different types of nouns, like proper nouns, common nouns, abstract nouns, plural nouns, singular nouns, concrete nouns, and collective nouns. We won't dive far too deep into it, but just to give you an overview, remember that proper nouns are nouns that have a unique identity. They're specific names of people, places, objects, and so on and so forth. For example, Liechtenstein, it's the name of a place in Europe. Common nouns are nouns that refer to categories, like the words car, boy, girl, etc. We're not talking about a specific car, boy, or girl. Abstract nouns are intangible nouns, meaning we can't touch or look at them, but we may be able to feel them. Emotions like love, sadness, and fear cannot be touched or seen, but you know they're there because you can feel them, hence they're abstract nouns. One thing to note is that one noun can be a part of two different categories. For example, a car is both a common noun and a concrete noun. Now that you all have a gist of what nouns are all about, let's expound on our original topic, subject and object in grammar. The subject is the thing that does the action. On the contrary, the object is the thing that receives the action. They're both opposites of each other. Let's have a look at an example to clear up any confusion that might be there. Mila likes to eat chocolates. Here, the word Mila is the subject of the sentence because it is the one doing the action. Who likes to eat chocolates? Well, Mila does. Mila is the noun, more specifically, the proper noun, that is acting as the subject. How about this one? Swimming is a very fun sport. In this example, the word swimming is the subject of the sentence. But is swimming a noun? Yes, it is. It's actually a type of noun or verbal known as gerund. Just to give you an overview, a gerund is the ing form of the verb that is derived from a root verb. In this case, it's the word swim plus ing, which gives us the word swimming. A subject can be many things, a noun or a noun phrase or a pronoun or an infinitive, or maybe gerunds. Don't be intimidated by the different names or categories, just remember that a subject is anything that does the action. To ease up confusion even further, here are the things you need to remember when pointing out or identifying the subject. Number 1. The subject is the doer, it is the one that does the action. It's the main topic of a sentence. For example, Pikachu is the mascot of Pokemon. In this example, the word Pikachu is what's being emphasized. Even as you read the sentence, you realize which word is being accentuated more. Number 2. The verb in a sentence depends on the subject. Whether the verb should be singular or plural depends on the singularity or plurality of the subject. If the subject is singular, the verb is singular as well. Likewise, if the subject is plural, the verb is also plural. For example, Joshua is the only child of the Smiths. Joshua, singular, is singular. Joshua and Marie are the Smiths' children. Joshua and Marie, plural, are plural. Note that the subject usually takes an S at the end when it is pluralized. It's the exact opposite for a verb, It removes the S when it's plural. The lion hunts at night. The lions hunt at night. As you can see, in the first one, the word hunts has an S at the end. It's a singular verb because the subject, lion, is singular. In the second one, it doesn't have an S at the end because the subject is plural and hence, the verb is in the plural form too. Number 3. The subject and the verb are usually right next to each other. However, there are also exceptions. For instance, Jenna Ortega is a rising artist. The proper noun Jenna Ortega is right next to the verb is. Jenna Ortega, through the success of her series Wednesday, has managed to gain a significant amount of fame. In this example, the proper noun Jenna Ortega is followed by a prepositional phrase and then the verb has. There's some distance between them. Remember that the sentence is about Jenna Ortega. The word closest to the verb, has, may be Wednesday, but that has nothing to do with the verb. Number 4. As you know by now, subject is the one doing the action, but a verb, often, may not suggest that in a way that is very obvious. Every verb may not be an action verb, and that is because there are different types of verbs, like linking verbs, stative verbs, and so on and so forth. For example, Mike is highly intelligent compared to Peter. The verb is not suggestive of any actual action, right? But still, it is the main verb. In this case, it's a linking verb. It's telling us something about the proper noun Mike, who happens to be the subject of the sentence. Mike is intelligent. In fact, Mike is more intelligent than Peter. Peter is also a proper noun, but it's not the subject. As you can tell, clearly, the sentence is emphasizing something or the other about Mike. So don't get confused when you come across verbs that are not action verbs. Number 5. Sometimes, more than just one word is the subject of a sentence, and it can get a little tricky to figure out what verb form to use. For example, to be or not to be, that is the question. This is a famous line from the play Hamlet, written by William Shakespeare. In this sentence, the entire phrase, to be or not to be, is the subject. It's actually a to infinitive phrase. The word, that, is a pronoun that is referring to our to infinitive as a whole so as to avoid repetition. Another example would be, Harper, Sarah and Lana are all siblings who love the ocean a lot. In this case, Harper, Sarah and Lana are all subjects of the sentence, and hence our main verb, are, is in the plural form. Now let's move on to the object placements in grammar. The object in a sentence is anything that receives the action. It can receive the action of a verb or a preposition. But a sentence can only have an object if the verb that precedes it is a transitive verb. A transitive verb is a verb that needs something, an object, so to speak, to make sense. If we were to simply say, please take, without a word to follow it up, our sentence wouldn't make sense. Take is a transitive verb and hence requires an object. It usually answers the question, what, or, to whom. Intransitive verbs like sit, wait or cry do not require an object. For example, someone tells a person, please sit. Please sit, on its own makes perfect sense. It doesn't require an object. When it comes to objects, we have two types, direct objects and indirect objects. Direct objects refer to the person or the thing that receives the action of the verb. Indirect objects are objects that receive the direct object. Don't worry if it seems complicated at the moment, it's actually quite easy to understand. Let's put out some examples for better understanding. The city of Mumbai hosts several shows every month. In the above example, can you recognize the subject? It might seem a little tricky. Well, I'll give you a hint. You can leave out the prepositional phrase in order to find the subject. How did it go? If your answer is the noun city, you are absolutely right. Actually, the city of Mumbai, as a whole, can be considered the subject. But usually, we focus more on the head noun, which, in this case, would be the common noun city of Mumbai is a prepositional phrase. We'll explore head nouns in some other lesson. Alright, so back to the main topic. First thing to do when locating the object of a sentence is find out where and what the verb is. In our example, the verb is hosts, which is a transitive verb because it leaves us with the question, hosts what? Okay, so now we have the subject, the city of Mumbai, and then our verb, hosts. The direct object would be the word that receives the action of the verb hosts. The city of Mumbai hosts what? It hosts several shows. The direct object is the word shows. Several is a determiner, which you don't have to worry about now. There will be a separate lesson on that too. So, the city of Mumbai is the subject. Hosts is the main verb. And shows is the direct object. Do we have any indirect object? No, not in this case. So how about we add a few more words to our example? The city of Mumbai hosts several shows every month for all people. We already know by now that our direct object is the word shows. However, we also have a recipient of this direct object this time. The city of Mumbai hosts what? It hosts several shows, but for whom? For all people. People is the indirect object in this sentence. Indirect objects answer the question to whom or just whom. While direct objects receive the action of the verb, the indirect object receives the direct object itself. So in a sense, an indirect object needs a direct object, but a direct object doesn't need an indirect object. If you said, give to me, this sentence wouldn't make sense. That's improper English out and out. The indirect object, me, has nothing to do with the verb give, but it has all to do with whatever that is to be given. This sentence is hence incomplete. The word, give, has to have something after it, anything that can then be received by the indirect object, me. So how about this sentence? Give the chocolate to me. Does it make sense? Yes, absolutely. In fact, you could also simply say, give it to me, if the word, chocolate, has already been mentioned before at some point during the conversation. In the case of pronouns, it's easy to figure out the indirect object because it's usually the combination of the preposition to, followed by an object pronoun like her, him, them, us, etc. For example, Sheena gave the flowers to her. Or, could you give that document to me? If you still find it difficult to differentiate between a direct and an indirect object, here's a little trick. Try to rearrange the sentence without changing the meaning. In the example, Sean gave me a side eye, we do not have a preposition to make things clear. However, we could change the order a little without losing the meaning of the sentence. Sean gave a side eye to me. The sentence still has the same meaning. Let's look at some more examples before moving on to our next subtopic. The company provides free lunch to its staff. Marie makes breakfast for her mother without fail. He gave me the keys instead of opening the door himself. She took the trash out for the trash man to pick. Don't serve cats any dog food. I bought my eldest daughter in Korea some souvenirs. You might be wondering, the last one seems a bit extensive. Well, that's because just like subjects, objects can also comprise more than one word. A direct or an indirect object can be a noun phrase as well. An indirect object, as you may have noticed already, is usually a person or an animal. Alright then, with this we've completed our lesson on subject and object placements in English grammar. We hope you had fun and learned something. More lessons will be coming up soon. Remember that Go Grammar is here to help. Be seeing you.